It's Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. The White House machine stays on message. We finally figure out what those drones over New Jersey were. And one pastor doth speak in forked tongue next on the AM Update.
Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals.
You treating migrants humanely, but there's been reports of them on planes with no water, complaining.
That's a bunch of crap.
What do you mean a bunch of crap?
We're targeting the worst first, right? That's who we're getting. We're focusing on those targets. We're not targeting people in schools. We're not targeting people in church.
I can fit in this car.
Believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had her first press conference as new press secretary of the Trump White House. Here she is fielding a question from a reporter about how many of those illegal aliens that have been arrested in the past week actually have criminal records. Perfect response. Listen to this.
3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is what we were talking about yesterday. It is a pernicious misnomer that there's anything such as a criminal illegal alien, because it makes it sound as if you can be an illegal alien and not have broken laws. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you have broken the nation's immigration laws, you are a criminal. Caroline Leavitt knocked it out of the park there. She also had this to add about the new shift in culture at the White House.
Of illegal aliens under the previous administration. Additionally, President Trump signed an executive order to end catch and release and finish construction of his effective border wall. By using every lever of his federal power, President Trump has sent a loud and clear message to the entire world. America will no longer tolerate illegal immigration. And this president expects that every nation on this planet will cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens.
That is a marked, I don't know how much more of a marked shift in tone and combat you could have from one administration to the next. More on immigration in just a little bit. Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, also made this announcement yesterday regarding those drone sightings over New Jersey late last year.
Drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy.
So there you have it. The White House says that those drones flying over New Jersey late last year, many of them mistaken. A lot of them were hobbyist drones, but she did say that there were a few that were authorized by the FAA. I don't know what that means. That's kind of a broad statement, but they were authorized to do research and other various activities. That's a very broad statement, but again, the White House reiterates that those drones were not malicious or foreign in origin. Back to immigration, it's being reported that in their first week, Trump has deported 7,300 illegal aliens, with those numbers from Immigration and Customs Enforcement seemingly rising each day. Border czar Tom Homan was accosted by a very hostile reporter from some UK outlet. Listen to what she has to ask.
You treating migrants humanely, but there's been reports of them on planes with no water, complaining.
That's a bunch of crap.
What do you mean a bunch of crap?
ICE detention facilities have the highest detention standards in the industry. Any of the ICE standards, our detention standards are higher than any state or federal or local facility in the nation, in the world. Someone should go to the ICE website, look at PBNDS 11, performance-based detention standards, and look at our detention standards, highest in industry.
But are you sure you're only getting illegal criminal migrants? I mean, there were some pictures over the weekend of people that claim to be students, Brazilian students, who were showing examples of bruises on their arms from American deportation flights.
That's ridiculous, but if they want to make a complaint, we investigate it.
There's Tom Homan being accosted by a very hostile reporter. You just love the framing of that question there. Well, there's reports that you're mistreating illegal. Yeah, there's reports you're a moron, lady. You care to back those up at all? There's reports. The same people who are entering the country illegally would not lie about being mistreated. Of course not. They are upstanding individuals who have only, broken the law multiple times by crossing the border illegally multiple times. Dispatches from Chicago. Here's Immigration and Customs Enforcement Chicago Field Office Director talking on Fox News about what his strategy is in that area for dealing with the illegal alien invasion.
What we're doing is we're targeting the worst first, right? That's who we're getting. We're focusing on those targets. We're not targeting people in schools. We're not targeting people in churches. We're targeting people who are the worst. There's a chance they're going to go to some of those places, and this administration has kind of taken some of the handcuffs off of us in a way, right? We're leaving the discretion with our officers, and our officers are trained to make good decisions out there, and we support them. And that's the one thing that we have to realize. These officers now, when we could have arrested somebody at a safe facility, right, a jail or a court lockup with one or two officers, and now we have to go out into the streets. Now most of our teams are at least 10 agents and officers trying to arrest one individual.
Nevertheless, though, here's Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who says his city is going to do everything it can to protect illegals from Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Continue to protect civil and human rights, and we welcome all individuals and families who want to work, live, and thrive here in our beloved city. The Welcoming City Ordinance is a law, and it is the law of the land here in Chicago. We will uphold it, along with the complementary Illinois Trust Act, to ensure that our immigrant communities are safe.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. Here's what I'm digging about this Trump administration so far. Everybody from Donald Trump to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to border czar Tom Homan. We even saw Kristi Noem out there on the streets in New York City yesterday morning, personally deporting individuals as well, down to that Immigration and Customs Enforcement field officer in Chicago. They are all beating the same drum. They are all on the same message. And I do think there is a little bit of strategy when it comes to deporting the worst first, as you heard from that Chicago field officer. There's absolutely no excuse for countries like Colombia, Mexico, other sundry places all around the globe. There's no excuse for them to not take back their violent illegal aliens. That is an easier sell to both the American people and to those foreign governments. That then opens the door later on to getting rid of the rank and file illegal aliens who are maybe not as violent as those that you're deporting first, but are still here illegally nonetheless. So again, I'm still encouraged. Over the first week, you've already seen some hostile questioning. You've already seen some really stupid gotcha questions. Everybody from Donald Trump on down to the Immigration and Customs Enforcement field officer that we just heard from, all on the same message. That is really hard to do, and it's being done really well. Well, I've seen this described as the nuclear option for shrinking the size of the federal government. Well, it's real, and it's here. The Trump administration announced yesterday it's offering a buyout to all federal employees who opt to leave their jobs by next week. It's an unprecedented move to shrink the U.S. government at breakneck speed. A memo from the Office of Personnel Management, the government's human resources agency, also said it would begin subjecting all federal employees to, quote-unquote, enhanced standards of suitability and conduct, and warned of future downsizing. The email sent to millions of employees said those who leave their posts voluntarily will receive about 8 months of salary, but they have to choose to do so by February 6th. Federal government employs more than 3 million people, which makes it roughly the nation's 15th largest workforce. The average tenure for a federal employee is nearly 12 years. In its email memo detailing its plan, the Office of Personnel Management lists 4 directives that it says Trump is mandating for the federal workforce going forward, including that most workers return to their office full time. The memo says that it's also placing an increased importance on performance culture. The federal government is insisting on excellence at every level, a more streamlined and flexible workforce with maybe different locales and people moving offices, and enhanced standards of conduct. So again, this is the nuclear option for shrinking the federal government workforce at a breakneck speed. 7-month buyout, that's more generous than pretty much any federal worker deserves. I'm not talking about the military. This is not the military that we're talking about here. 7 months buyout, but that's a good deal to shrink the federal government, hopefully permanently. Man alive, these changes are coming in hot and heavy, including this one. President Trump also signed an executive order yesterday banning federal money from going towards so-called child sex change operations. See that as meatball surgery, genital mutilation, and chemical castration for minors. The executive order refers to the procedures as, quote, chemical and surgical mutilation. That's what the executive order says. That's how I've been describing it on this little podcast for years now. The executive order goes on to say it is the policy of the United States that it will not fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the so-called transition of a child from one sex to another, and it will rigorously enforce all laws that prohibit or limit these destructive and life-altering procedures. As William Wolf over at the Center for Baptist Leadership pointed out last night, there were people within the quote-unquote Evangelicals for Harris coalition that wanted you to vote against that righteous executive order. Again, if you were putting together a reasonable ask for a president in the year 2025, you could not do it very much better than what you've seen over the past 8 days from the new Trump administration. In other news, Fox News is reporting Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is going to announce he's immediately pulling retired General Mark Milley's personal security detail and security clearance. The secretary is also directing the new acting inspector general to conduct a review board to determine if enough evidence exists for General Milley to be stripped of a star in retirement based on his actions to, quote, undermine the chain of command during President Donald Trump's first term. The Pentagon will also be removing a second portrait of General Milley inside the Pentagon. This one is from the Army's Marshall Corridor on the 3rd floor, honoring his service as Chief of Staff of the Army. The first portrait of General Milley from his time the U.S. military staff officer was removed from the Pentagon last week on Inauguration Day, less than 2 hours after President Trump was sworn into office. The now retired General Milley and other former senior Trump aides had been assigned personal security details ever since Iran vowed revenge for the killing of Qasem Soleimani in a drone strike in 2020, ordered by Trump in his first term. So I hope that this is a sign of things to come, especially if he's stripped of a star in retirement. That's sending a message, no, you're not even safe in retirement. There is vengeance there's accountability coming. Accountability is coming. That's sending a message, everybody down from a 5-star general like Mark Milley. Sending a message, you are on notice. Don't act out of line. There's a new boss in town, a new sheriff in town. Accountability is the best medicine. Coming up next, a somewhat longtime senator is calling it quits. So is a longtime CNN anchor. And a 500-pound woman needs a forklift. That's coming up next.
All of this in careful consideration and weighing an alternative time slot CNN offered me, I've decided to move on. I am grateful to CNN for the nearly 18 years I've spent here doing the news. People often ask me...
Shut up. That is Jim Acosta from CNN saying he's signing off for the last time. He carefully weighed a new time slot that CNN offered him. Yeah, that time slot was on like CNN 3 from midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning. Not really exaggerating all that much. Here's what Jim Acosta is actually saying here. Donald Trump broke my brain. CNN is trying to stapler guy me, and I'm frightened by many things. But I want you to listen to me and listen to me good. You probably won't remember who I am by this time tomorrow. But I want you to know one thing and one thing alone. I'm very important. That's basically Jim Acosta's sign-off notice live on CNN the other day. See, Jim Acosta and other journalists like him, they think so much of themselves. Here's what their morning routine looks up. They get out of bed, they go to the bathroom, and they start giving themselves a pep talk in the mirror. Jim Acosta looks at himself in the mirror every morning and says, Jim, you're basically a Green Beret. You're a U.S. Navy SEAL, buddy. You go out there and get them. That's how much they think of themselves. And I'm right. None of us will remember that Jim Acosta existed like this time tomorrow or even next week. Michigan Senator Gary Peters, who led the Democrats' Senate campaign efforts the past 2 election cycles, has announced he's not going to be seeking a third term in 2026, creating a highly contested battleground seat expected to be coveted by both major political parties. The 66-year-old's unexpected decision Tuesday to step aside after just 2 terms comes as a surprise and poses a challenge for Democrats in Michigan during a turbulent period, likely dividing their strong bench between the gubernatorial and Senate races in 2026. Peters said in a YouTube video, quote, "After 3 terms in the House and 2 in the Senate, I believe now is the time for me to write a few more paragraphs in my current chapter and then turn over the reins. I will therefore not seek re-election in 2026. Having lost Michigan in the presidential race, Peters' decision forces Democrats to defend a critical Senate seat in Michigan without the advantage of an incumbent, complicating their efforts to regain control of the chamber, where Republicans hold a 53-47 majority. Expected to be among the names most circulated for the position is Pete Buttigieg, of course, the now former U.S. Transportation Secretary who moved to Michigan in recent years. Check out this story, also out of Michigan, Detroit. Mind you, you're about to hear the story of a nearly 500-pound woman who is suing the ride-sharing app Lyft.
Joe Blanding tells us she was just trying to get to a Detroit Lions watch party this month when her Lyft rolled up.
As I'm walking, I see him like making faces or whatever. I'm like, oh man.
I just want to underscore something here real quick before you continue. This woman is 500 pounds. 500 pounds.
But he knew.
I can fit in this car.
No, believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
Believe me.
He told her there's not enough room in his car.
The kicker part was when he started to talk about his tires. You know, I feel like that was
I just want to underscore something. This woman is 500 pounds.
Slap in the face. That was like my tires, you know, like.
The driver said his tires could not handle her weight.
For every big person you turn down because they can't fit in your car?
Yeah, because they need to order the Uber XL.
You know what? I don't never have to order Uber XL.
He apologized, canceled the ride, and left her there. The rapper says she's pretty tough.
I get the money and flip it and make some food.
Dank DeMoss, as she's known at the mic, is crushed by the whole situation.
I just want them to know, like, it really hurt my feelings.
It looks like Lyft might be hurting pretty soon, too.
I knew it was illegal, and I knew that it was wrong.
Her attorneys, John Marco and Zach Runyon, say weight is a protected characteristic in Michigan by law.
It would be no different than a driver pulling up and saying, you know, I don't want to have black people in my car, or I don't want to have Christians in my car, or Muslims in my car. It's the same. Under the law, it's the same.
The lawsuit is filed. Since she posted the encounter on social media, other full-figured folks have reached out saying the same.
What we're calling it now? Is that what we're calling 500-pound women? Full-figured? I mean, okay. In case I didn't make this clear, this woman, just mental image, she's 500 pounds. Okay, that's not all genetics. Okay, 500 pounds. You know, the craziest part of this story, actually, is not that she's suing Lyft. It's that Lyft is not suing her for eating the car. Okay, I'm joking. I'm joking. Seriously, let's not judge a book by its cover, or in this case, a ship by its hull. Anthony Mackie is the lead star in the new Captain America movie, Brave New World. He was caught on camera recently talking about what Captain America means to him, and I think there's maybe a little bit of an overreaction to what you're about to hear.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. Like, it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone who is trustworthy and dependable. It's kind of, this is kind of like an aspect of a dream coming true. When I was a kid.
Oh, Anthony Mackie. Lead actor for the new Captain America movie, Brave New World. He knew he stepped in it right there. Trying to say, and there's one soundbite that's going around that Captain America, it's just the beginning of this clip. I'll just play it over again.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations.
And you can hear after that, he starts to trip over himself quite a little bit. There was a huge outcry over this on social media yesterday, and I'm not really worried about that, and I'll tell you why in just a little bit. But I think what he's trying to say here, and he really fumbled bad, he's trying to say that there are things other than just the country America that Captain America, the character, represents. And he's trying to tap into those positive aspects. The rest of the answer is great. A man who keeps his word, that there are values beyond ourselves worth pursuing, saving, and sharing. That's really good stuff. And I've heard other people talk about the rest of this talk that he gave in promotion of Captain America, Brave New World. He says a lot of things that conservatives would agree with. I think he just stepped in and accidentally there. I don't think he was trying to do an anti-American statement at all. Here's why I really don't have a problem with the outcry that you saw about this clip yesterday, even though I think it was maybe misplaced. These people need to be put on edge all the time. I'm talking about the Hollywood elite class of people. You need to be on notice all the time. Yes, it's time for you to start walking on rhetorical eggshells. You don't just get to say whatever you want, whenever you want, about whomever you want, so long as those people wear red hats. And you can see, and you could hear in that clip, he knows he messed up. I think that's a positive change. I think that's a step in the right direction culturally, that these actors, the elites of our society, are now worrying about what they're saying because they know that they cannot afford to tick off more than half of the population. So that's why I really don't have a problem with the outrage over this clip that I saw from a lot of right-wing sources yesterday, even though I think they didn't really get the full context of what he was saying. I think these actors, they need to come groveling back. I screwed up. Please don't hurt me. I think that's what needs to happen here. So, again, he screwed up, but I don't have a problem with people who are pissed with him anyway. California has agreed to drop all charges against David Daleiden and Sandra Merritt following years of legal battles over the pro-lifers' release of undercover videos showing abortion providers discussing the procurement and selling of dead baby body parts. The Center for Medical Progress, it's the pro-life group overseen by Daleiden, announced on Monday that he and Merritt had reached a plea agreement with the California Attorney General's office. According to the agreement, the two activists will make a no-contest plea in which they will receive no jail time, no fines, and no admission of wrongdoing, and no probation. The no-contest plea, which cannot be used adversely, will be entered into judgment as a misdemeanor in 6 to 12 months and then converted to a not guilty plea, dismissed and expunged. Daleiden was quoted in the announcement as saying that the settlement was a huge victory for his investigative reporting and for the public's right to know the truth about Planned Parenthood's sale of aborted baby body parts. You'll recall the California Attorney General all those years ago who launched this case against Daleiden and other pro-lifers for exposing the wicked, evil, unspeakable acts that Planned Parenthood was and maybe still is involved with. You'll remember the name of that California Attorney General? One Kamala Harris. And now, thankfully, it sounds like this case is at an end. Coming up next, hear from a pastor from the Southern Baptist Convention who speaks with forked tongue. What you're about to hear is the voice of Pastor Matt Crawford at Trinity Bible Church in Cordova, Tennessee, on Sunday last. What you're about to hear is so divisive and offensive that Tennessee State Senator Brent Taylor actually got up and walked out of the service when this went down.
Stop before we begin our service and just talk briefly with you about something that's a little bit sensitive. Some of us may have different opinions on this. Some of us may have strong opinions on this, and I ask you to consider it with love and grace and the spirit of unity that our church has consistently been marked by. And it has to do with this issue of what's going on with immigration in our country right now and some of the actions that are being taken. And I think we all believe in the rule of law. I certainly do. I don't think we should have wide open borders. But I do believe that immigration is a major part of what has made this country so great. It's a major part of our history. We all believe that violent criminals should not be allowed to remain here and terrorize innocent people. We can agree on that. I do think that there are many good people here who are undocumented who would like a path to legality. I believe it's too hard right now for good people to find that path. That's sometimes nearly impossible. When I was in Florida, we had a Hispanic congregation there at my first church where I was a senior pastor. And there was our associate pastor. He was not on the payroll, but he served as a volunteer there as an associate pastor. And he was not documented. And he had been here from Costa Rica for 10 or 11 years. And wanted to be legal, and it was very hard for him to get there. And that's unfortunate. I think we need reform in that area. I don't know the legal status of all of our people who come to Trinity in Espanol. I don't know the legal status of all of our people who come to ESL. I don't think we're called to police that as a church. That's the government's job. We are called to love and to help those in need. It's been announced that now churches can be targets of raids. No one is being sheltered or kept here. But I don't like the idea, and I think you probably agree, that worship service could be disrupted by a raid. I don't want people who come here to be ministered to and to hear the gospel to be afraid to come here. So I'm disappointed by that change. I hope that we can believe both in the rule of law and feel that we don't want worship services disrupted by that. I hope that me saying that doesn't anger you. But I wanted to address that. Hopefully we can talk about things with unity and nuance and even differences of opinion, because it's on the hearts of some of our people. Elizabeth Richards is going to pray about it during our intercessory prayer time. So I hope that we can give each other grace if we disagree on the details there. Be a unified church, because the unity of the Church of Jesus Christ is so important.
That is Pastor, air quotes, Pastor Matt Crawford at Trinity Bible Church in Cordova, Tennessee. And finally, air analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. The title of that sermon, ostensibly, The Gospel of Low Testosterone by Pastor Matt Crawford. What you just heard there was utterly, utterly subversive. Multiple occasions he says, we can all agree we don't want open borders. We can all agree that the rule of law should stand. It's a common Harvard Ivy League debate tactic. Oh, we can all agree on this nebulous, abstract idea, which is also why you should agree with my opinion on this other matter. And the subtext is, if you don't agree with this, you're a bad person, you're lacking in grace, you're not helping those in need. That is so subversive. He talks about how the spirit of unity has always marked his church. You heard it at the beginning and at the end of that clip. Well, you are the one sowing disunity, Pastor. If you disagree, I hope you can accept this. I hope you don't get mad at me. Oh, if I get mad at you, that means I'm a bad person. That's what you say, because you're trying to disarm me here. In so many different ways throughout that clip. You just heard somebody who does not know, has not been catechized, who has not been actually versed in anything pertaining to how the government intersects with the church or teaching of theology. Borders are a biblical concept. They are, going back to the Old Testament. The alien and sojourner. Sojourner means passing through. Alien means somebody who's not supposed to be there. And yet that pastor expresses, this is what bothers me. One of the things that bothers me the most about this. He expresses more deference to somebody who has broken the laws of our country than he does to the citizen, his neighbor next door, a citizen of this country. Expresses more deference there. Uses emotional blackmail. Oh, you wouldn't want ICE to come in during the service, would you? Highly unlikely that would happen. Unless there's a terrorist there. And then there's this as well. The pastor mentions at his old church, he had a quote-unquote undocumented person there, an illegal alien. Harboring a known illegal alien is a crime. That's a crime. And that pastor is, in a very passive-aggressive way, in a virtue-signaling way, boasting about that. If you have a pastor who sounds like this, who tries to disarm you, emotionally manipulate you like you just heard there, on basically any issue, you need to leave. Wow, what a great, uplifting air analysis for a Wednesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, much lighter fare, talking about the poll of the week, which is lighting up. Do you think the refs rig NFL games in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs? We'll talk about that tomorrow, along with a lot of other stuff. Hope you have a wonderful day. See you then. I'm Aaron McIntyre, and this is the AM Update.